Hidden within the depths of the Appalachian Mountains lies a forsaken stretch of road, shrouded in mystery and dread. Known simply as Devil's Bend, its very name evokes a sense of unease and foreboding. Whispers of sinister tales swirl around it like mist, passed among wary locals in hushed tones. This desolate path, untouched by civilization, bears the weight of a dark legacy, as if tainted by the presence of a malevolent force that haunts its winding curves. Annals of time lost any record of his name, if he ever had one. People simply knew him as the Phantom of Devil's Bend. He was a solitary figure who prowled the lonely road at night. Shadow steeped his soul, twisting his purpose with vengeance. Each year, the legend grew. The blood-soaked tales of those who dared to traverse the cursed highway after dusk folded. Travelers vanished without a trace. The hungry darkness that covered Devil's Bend swallowed their scream. Some said the Phantom was a lost soul seeking retribution for a forgotten past. Others whispered of a pact with the devil. Jackson knew the stories well, but he paid them no heed. A wanderer by nature, he found solace in the quiet of the forest, the solitude of the open road. So he found himself at the entrance to Devil's Bend one moonless night. He felt no fear, only excitement at the unknown. He revved his engine with a defiant smile. Then he plunged into the darkness. His headlights cut through the night like twin beacons. The air grew thick with anticipation. He navigated the twists and turns of the winding road. The forest closed in around him, like a suffocating embrace. But then, just as he began to relax into the rhythm of the road, he saw him. A figure stood in the middle of the highway, its form shrouded in darkness. Jackson's heart pounded. He slammed on the brakes, and his car skidded to a stop just inches from the Phantom's outstretched hand. For a moment, they stood locked in a silent standoff. The air was heavy with centuries-old pain. Then, the figure vanished suddenly. It took Jackson by surprise. It left behind nothing but an eerie silence. Shaken but undeterred, Jackson pressed on, his curiosity overpowering his fear. But as he rounded a bend in the road, he saw something that chilled him to the bone. There, the Phantom stood in the middle of the highway. His eyes burned with fury. They sent shivers down Jackson's spine. With a cry of terror, Jackson swerved to avoid the ghost. His car careened off the road and into the darkness. The echoes of his screams faded into the night. Then Jackson found himself lying dazed amidst the wreckage of his car. Panic surged through him as he realized he was not alone. Out of the shadows emerged a figure, tall and menacing, its features twisted into a grotesque mask of rage. With a blood-curdling scream, the Phantom lunged at Jackson. His hands grasped for his throat with otherworldly strength. Jackson was desperate and fighting for his life. He fought back with all his might. He grappled with the ghostly attacker in a frenzied dance of death. But try as he might, he could not overpower the Phantom, its grip tightening around his neck. Just as Jackson felt death near, a bright light pierced the dark. It bathed the scene in an otherworldly glow. With a final ear-splitting shriek, the Phantom vanished. It left Jackson gasping in the cold night. And as he lay there, shaken but alive, Jackson knew he had narrowly escaped clutches of death itself. Without a second glance, Jackson slammed his foot on the gas. His car lurched forward with a jolt that sent him careening down the road at breakneck speed. The forest blurred past him. It was a dizzying whirl of shadows and moonlight. Each twist and turn of the road was a stark reminder of the peril he had barely escaped. As he drove, his heart pounded with dread. Jackson vowed to never return to that accursed road, but he knew that the memory of that fateful encounter would haunt him forever. It would be a grim reminder of the darkness in the shadows of Devil's Bend. It waited to claim its next victim. Willow Creek is a quaint town, nestled among dense forests and winding rivers. A sense of peace there hides a chilling truth. For months, the townsfolk whispered in hushed tones. They talked about the mysterious disappearances plaguing their community. Each victim vanished without a trace. They left behind only questions and a fear that hung in the air like a heavy fog. Detective Sarah Hayes received the assignment for the case. Her sharp mind and strong will made her the town's best hope for solving the mystery. As she investigated, she found a pattern. It sent shivers down her spine. The victims all shared a common thread. They were all young women who looked strikingly alike. It was as if the killer was targeting a specific type, a twisted obsession driving their dark deeds. The pressure mounted. Each day, it grew as Sarah raced against time to stop the killer before they struck again. But the culprit was hard to pin down. They hid their identity. It was secretive, like a ghost in the town's dark corners. As Sarah delved deeper, a chilling realization slowly dawned upon her. The killer wasn't just picking victims at random. They were orchestrating a deadly game. They left behind cryptic messages and clues. These seemed to mock her efforts. Sarah followed a trail of breadcrumbs. They led her deep into the heart of the forest. Her instincts drove her. The green canopy above seemed to embrace her with its mysterious allure. Sunlight filtered through the thick foliage. It cast dappled shadows on the forest floor. Ferns and moss, a lush tapestry of green, carpeted the ground. Her instincts, honed by years spent in communion with nature, guided her every step. She moved with fluid grace. Her senses were alive to every rustle of leaves and every bird call in the woods. Each breadcrumb was like a breadcrumb of destiny. They beckoned her forward and promised secrets they had not yet revealed. She suddenly heard a rustle of leaves. The subtle crunch of twigs accompanied it underfoot. Her instincts are finely tuned to subtle changes. They sent a shiver down her spine, and then she saw him. Finally, she came face to face with the killer, a figure shrouded in darkness and menace. His eyes gleamed coldly. They were calculating as he moved towards her. His intentions were clear. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she realized the danger she was in. Adrenaline surged through her veins. Sarah sprinted through the dense underbrush. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drumbeat of terror. But in her panicked haste, she stumbled over a hidden root, crashing to the forest floor with a cry of pain. Agony lanced through her body. She struggled to her feet. Her injured ankle throbbed with each step. She pressed on with grim determination. The searing pain in her leg slowed her movements. Behind her, she could sense the killer. His presence was closing in. His footsteps echoed ominously through the silent forest. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps as she fought to stay ahead, her mind a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. In the distance, she saw a towering oak tree. Its gnarled branches offered sanctuary from the looming threat. With a burst of desperate energy, Sarah darted towards the tree. Her heart pounded with urgency. She pressed her back against the rough bark. Her chest heaved as she struggled to catch her breath. Sarah frantically dialed for backup. Her hands trembled with adrenaline-fueled urgency. Through gritted teeth, she told her location to the waiting police team. She prayed for their swift arrival. Moments later, the forest erupted into chaos as the sound of sirens pierced the air. They had guns drawn and flashlights cutting the darkness. The police descended upon the scene. Their presence was a beacon of hope in the face of great danger. In a tense standoff, authorities apprehended the killer. This brought his reign of terror to a quick and clear end. Sarah watched from the safety of the shadows. A wave of relief washed over her, but the sad realization of the price paid for justice mixed with it. Dawn broke over the horizon, casting its golden light on sleepy Willow Creek. Sarah knew the scars of the past would never fully heal, but someone had vanquished the darkness that once lurked within its depths. It was thanks to her determination and the courage of those who stood by her. Dr. Gregory Marlowe was the epitome of a dedicated physician, renowned for his reassuring smile and gentle demeanor. In hospitals, he garnered trust and admiration from patients and colleagues alike, perceived as a paragon of medical ethics and expertise. However, behind closed doors lurked a shocking secret, one that would startle even the most seasoned minds. Throughout his great career, Dr. Marlowe had perfected the art of deception. His cunning masked the darkness in his soul. For years, suspicion simmered below the surface. Whispers of malpractice and foul play spread. They spread among those who dared to question the enigmatic doctor's methods. Yet they lack evidence to back their claims. The chorus of praise surrounded Dr. Marlowe like a shield, drowning out their voices. One chilling incident occurred at Riverview Hospital. A rare brain disorder led to the admission of Emily, a young patient. Dr. Marlowe was eager to assert his authority and show his expertise. He insisted on doing an experimental procedure to ease her symptoms, but as the surgery continued, it became clear that Dr. Marlowe's motivations were not to heal. A twisted thirst for power and control drove them. Emily lay on the operating table, helpless and vulnerable. Dr. Marlowe's hands moved with a near-obsessive precision, but beneath the facade of professionalism was a malevolent force. Dr. Marlowe deliberately manipulated the procedure, causing irreversible damage to Emily's fragile brain. When the surgery was over, Emily's condition had worsened beyond repair. The very hands that were meant to save her ultimately took her life. But perhaps the most disturbing event of all happened at Mercy General Hospital. There, a routine surgery took a sinister turn. A routine appendectomy admission awaited Maria, a young mother. Her prognosis was favorable and her spirits were high. Yet, as Dr. Marlowe prepared to operate way through the procedure, Dr. Marlowe's demeanor changed. Dr. Marlowe deliberately cut an artery. This unleashed a torrent of blood that stained the sterile room red. Despite their frantic efforts to save her, Maria slipped away. The very man who had sworn to do no harm had extinguished her life. After the tragedy, whispers of Dr. Marlowe's true nature spread quickly. They recoiled in horror. They had trusted him, but now saw the monster lurking beneath the surface. But it wasn't until the guard at Mercy General caught Dr. Marlowe committing another awful act. This is when his full evil was exposed. In that moment, the guard knew. He had found something more evil than he could have ever imagined. He reached for his radio urgently. He was usually stoic. He was summoning the authorities to confront the doctor. The doctor's hands were stained with the blood of innocents. The investigation that followed was hard. Dr. Marlowe's careful planning left little tangible evidence. Yet, as the layers of deception were slowly peeled away, a pattern of deceit and betrayal began to emerge. We scrutinized patient records. We interviewed witnesses. A chilling portrait emerged of a man consumed by his own darkness. Despite his best efforts to stay innocent, Dr. Marlowe's facade started to crumble. It did so under the weight of lots of evidence. He had nowhere left to run. Law enforcement arrested him. They charged him with many murders and cases of medical malpractice. But even as he sat behind bars, his grip on reality began to slip. The guilt and shame of his crimes gnawed at his sanity like a relentless predator. In his cold cell, the ghosts of his past tormented Dr. Marlowe. He saw the faces of those he had wronged. Their accusing stares pierced through the veil of his denial. He couldn't bear the weight of his guilt. He would end a decision that would seal his fate. He would end his own life. This would spare him the agony of facing justice for his crime. One dark and desolate night, Dr. Gregory Marlowe was a respected healer, but he turned into a twisted bringer of death. On that night, he took his own life. He left behind a legacy of pain and suffering. It would haunt those touched by his evil for years.